Welcome to another installment of the FlexyStudio podcast, and I'm here again with the legend, the OG, Flame. Get Flame, little Flame, yay! Welcome to the show. Hello, Flame. How you been, hon?
How you doing? How are you?
Oh, I am splendid,
Can
thank
you
you.
hear me?
So this is a conversation by lockers for lockers, and yes, if you don't know the name Flame, then where have you been? But because Flame, tell me, when did you start locking?
I have to tell you, probably in the 1980, 1980, I went to Los Angeles in 79 and I was mostly just whacking and street dancing and dancing couples, like disco, like the movie Saturday Night Live. But then there were contests to be had, and it was a better fit for two people to do that kind of dancing precisionally than to just do the ballroom type touch dancing or what they call the New York hustle. So it was something that was coming up then, and then of course guys were doing it with guys. So of course, being a competitive person, I would want to do it with another girl just to show that girls could do it. But yeah, I started about 1980. I knew all the original lockers. I used to watch them on their Saturday morning television show, probably 1970s. I think they started in the 77, 78. I didn't move to Los Angeles till 79, but I definitely knew their names. I used to watch the show with Rerun on it. We became really good friends, me and Rerun. Rest his soul. Anyways, he was one of the nicest lockers. All the other ones were, they were hard to reach, and because they were so well known, they were already stars in Los Angeles. But they still did dance in contests and dance in the nightclubs, and you can catch them at a nightclub at one night or run into them going to a nightclub on another night. But that's how I saw the locking. Then there were other groups called a second locker group. Then it was the Valley in Los Angeles was coming out with the LA City Rockers. Everybody had their own little piece of it. But that time it was about 1984 or something. So in the original lockers, they were there first, but I learned moves exactly from them. I mean, I'm a mimic, so I pick up from watching. I took classes later on with Tony Basil and her group. She would teach, she would have all the lockers come, Fluky Luke, and they would come and learn ballet, and it was just a little fun class, and we would go and learn locking. But I mean, I was learning ballet too, and we would have fun because we were all auditioning for different stuff, and she wanted us to be very versatile. And of course, she was the lady. I mean, she was already a singing star, a sensation, but she was also on the Saturday morning television show with the Lockers. And she was also a judge. Most of the time when you went to a nightclub, she was one of the judges. So you got to impress her. So basically, that's how I started walking. So
there's a clip on
there's
your
a lot
YouTube.
of styles that can... Go ahead.
Get Flame YouTube. There's a clip with you where Greg Campbell Jr. is like posing all muscly, and you're like dancing around him. Wasn't there like for a David Bowie?
It was for David Bowie's audition for his tours, the Glass Spider. And the thing is, he wanted to see people of different styles do something completely different. So he was supposed to ignore me, and I was supposed to be flirtative with him. And of course, what I'm wearing is not anything lockerish. And of course, it was just to show personality. There was a couple of things that Skeeter did with Tony that I have the clips of, but it's not for me to put them on the internet without permission. But I'm sure Tony has them somewhere. She had us doing this repetitive whack thing, and we would walk in a line, and Skeeter led it. And at the end, and it was for the audition for the Spider Tour, which he ended up going on.
I believe he did. And this is Electric Boogaloo, Skeeter Rabbit, right?
Yeah, Skeeter Rabbit from Electric Boogaloo. And he was doing tutting at the end, but it was all this very what you call wacky kind of arm movements. And at the end, he goes up to the camera and he starts tutting and doing all this stuff that he does. And it just became the Skeeter show. But Bowie liked that people didn't look like what they were going to dance like. He had a guy on the tour too that was always around. He was in a bunch of videos with Tony Basil, and his name was Spaz, because his whole thing was he would spaz out, do a front flip, and look like he's having a stroke. But he was a punker, so he hung out in a different crowd, and he didn't do very many dance contests, but he was a dancer. He was just in a different fringe of dance. There was a couple of fringe dance movements in Los Angeles, but that one at the time, the punk dance movement, wasn't as something that would make you money, okay? And that's the only reason why most of the street dancers went to contests, was to make money, you know, or to be seen and make money.
Well, the thing that really interested me as well was the way that you guys use the term rock. Like my friend Vic's out here, he's very involved with the rocking and top rocking breaking community. And he was so interested how you were in LA City Rockers, which were predominantly locking and popping group. And also you had the Rock Dance Awards, where the term rock became like a b-boy kind of thing. So like what was rocking or rock dance to you in those days?
The rock dance that turned into the Rock Awards, rock to me just meant that we went out and danced in the evening to popular music. Okay. It wasn't rock music. It wasn't, we weren't top rocking. We weren't top, you know, it wasn't a style of dance. They called it the Rock Awards because at the time, I'm sure there's a lady that can correct me on this, because I'm not sure where the term Rock Awards came from, but the Disco Awards didn't sound good. If you really think about it, it was disco nightclubs that were transforming from being real disco, where everybody's touch dancing and doing the New York hustle and doing, you know, lifts with their girlfriend and spins and stuff. It went from that to becoming a very competitive fringe market for underground street performers who were dancers, who did not your mainline ballet and jazz and tap. Although there was some tap thrown in, a lot of the boy groups would do a lot of 40s study to do shim sham dancing and stuff, you know, soft shoe incorporated into their movement. And now, I mean, if you look at Alpha Anderson, he was a locker for years and years. He was one of
Crescendo. Are you talking about Crescendo? And
no, I'm talking about the dance shim sham. It's like a 1940s dance where
I've seen it. Yeah.
They used to put salt on the ground. They used to put salt on the ground in the 40s and then dance on the salt. They were tappers, but they didn't really tap. It was a soft shoe, but it was really athletic. And a lot of moves from that came from the Step Brothers, who were the black guys that danced in the 30s as a team and did a lot of tricks. Now, Alpha would do tricks, and that kind of dancing became like street dancing. You know, the term street dancing kind of incorporated everything. As far as the Rock Awards, I think that one of the gentlemen who had put it together, because the Rock Awards consisted of
Wet That Whistle.
Yes. It consisted of a bunch of nightclubs with MCs that were very popular. They could have been radio personas in Los Angeles. They could have been club owners. But at one point, once a year, all of them would get together and they would decide who was the best dancer, the best creative dancer, the newest dancer, the most upcoming dancer, the best group dancing. They would make categories like you wouldn't believe, and we would have an awards function. And it usually happened in Anaheim because it had the biggest halls. Yep. But people was coming from clubs from the Valley, clubs from the Orange County, which is like Anaheim and where Disneyland is and stuff, Hollywood, which was the hardcore Waacking people, you know, because it was very, very influenced by the gay community. It was a very gay neighborhood in Hollywood. And it just was a get together once a year to honor who was just kicking ass. And you wanted to get an award because otherwise you're just getting money. You get trophies, you get money. But at the end of the year, you're looking at everybody and you're going, yeah, I'm number one, not just at this club, at all the clubs. But the guys were radio announcers and stuff. So it was kind of rock-ish, so I think that's where the rock word came from. I don't think it was really anything we ever thought about that it said the Rock Awards, but I think having a disco nightclub awards didn't sound right.
And did you ever win?
Oh God, I won. Yeah. Yeah. One year I won most upcoming because I was new. It was 1979. I'm most creative. I used to do some weird skits. I remember one of my first skits was because my real name, and nobody use it, my real name is Jeannie. I used Get Down with the Genie, the song with the Open Sesame song, that one, Open Sesame. And it's a real funky funk song. I forgot who sings it. This is terrible. Not Earth, Wind, and Fire, but Cool in the Gang, something like that. Anyways, I wore a genie outfit. It was ridiculous. But I was very creative when I came to my dancing. This was singles. So there was couples, me and TC, who was TC Diamond and Crescendo. He was my partner for a long time, and we won together as best couple. And this is not as far as dancing, like John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. We did skits. We did full-on skits. And he would twirl cane, and I would dress like the 40s. But we would be dancing the dancing that we do now. I mean, whacking and punking and jumping and jiving and lip syncing. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Then he went on to dance with Crescendo, but not that he dropped me. I went into a dance company called Dance Machine, and when I started dancing professionally in Atlantic City with a guy named Jeff Kutash, who would harness a lot of street dancers and put them on stage and give us a lot of money, and we were all happy about that. But as far as locking and popping, now popping came because I was a really close friend of Bruno Bruno Falcone. And at the time, when we were on the set of Electric Boogaloo, we just became really good friends. I was married. He liked my husband. He used to come over and hang out because he didn't want to stay. I'm not going to say with whom, but he didn't want to stay over at his girlfriend's house. So he would come over and hang out at my house with my husband and me. And he would teach me pop until I couldn't keep my eyes open. He would stand behind me and teach me where my elbows are supposed to hit, and if my hair moves instead of the rest of my body. It was just a really fun time. So I learned popping from Bruno, although I also learned it from Anthony Bam Bam Thomas, and I learned it a lot from Jazzy J. He was really good teaching. But that's after I became one of the LA City Rockers. And that was because they needed girls. And there wasn't anybody that could do that kind of dancing. And the reason why they were called the Rockers is because they did. Terry Bixler was a break dancer, so they wanted a little bit of everything. Me and Boogie were jazz dancers, but I was only learning jazz because I learned it while I was performing in a show. I'm still a street dancer, so we clicked. They had the breaking, they also had the popping, and then me and Boogie brought locking that we did. And then we put it all together. So they were the LA City Rockers, because they rocked the world, see.
Oh, and still do. I mean, this is why I wanted to bring you on the show, because the last time we had a phone conversation, I was like, Flame, these stories are too good just for me. We need to share this with the world, because like talking to OGs like you, we need to all ears.
Rock. It's more like when a guy says to a girl, I'm going to rock your world, baby. That's what we did in the clubs. I mean, we were using it not so much as to rock, but as a descriptive term of what we're going to do, like tear the house down. We're going to rock your world, So the Rock Awards were the ultimate of the underground fringe movement, which was called the circuit. And that was because you went from club to club to club. Any one day of the week, you could find a club that had a contest, but was it the one you wanted to go to? Did it have enough money? Did it give you any prestige to do that club? Or did you really just need the money that night, And sometimes you wanted the money and you didn't get it. That was also disappointing, but, we are very competitive. I wanted to talk about that with you before when we were talking about how the dancers now will go somewhere and they will show their skills. Hold on. They'll show their skills.
Well, just take a little drink.
By taking turns and showing off, and they hone their skills. I'm not sure how, but when we did it, we were super competitive. If you actually did a move that somebody else did before you and you stole it, but you didn't really know you stole it, you just kind of saw it and you incorporate it. If you didn't change that move, even though you didn't know for sure if it was yours or theirs, you'd get called out on that. They would just boo your ass right there on the dance floor. You wouldn't even go very far at all. So you always were trying to come up with something better. And if you bit somebody's move, which is what we
biting, yeah.
So somebody's move, you would be known as a biter for the rest of your dance career. You're a biter. Nobody even would dance with you. You just steal shit. It's like I used to do stand-up. It's the same thing. You go to a club to practice your stand in front of a bunch of stand-up people on an off night. And the minute you start talking, they're writing down stuff and they're just biting your shit. But all you have to do is change it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then it's yours. So I used to hate going with my material because even a little tweak can make it theirs and you're giving them your idea. I really hated that. As far as dancing, everybody's body's kind of different. So if you have a signature move, pretty much nobody can do it. You know, you've got a lock on it, but then they can look at it and go, let me figure out another signature move from that. I think I can do something else, but similar. So it was very competitive. You didn't give your shit away till you used to get on the floor. You'd walk in and everybody wouldn't dance. There would be like an hour before the contest. And basically, is that showing on the thing? I hope not. Basically, you go to the contest and the only people dancing on the floor would be the people not in the contest. You wouldn't warm up. You wouldn't do shit. You'd sit there and you'd watch and you'd have this strategy, you know, and it was also very, very competitive. But the minute somebody went out there, you're looking, your eyes are 100% on them and you're looking at what the fuck are they going to do, you know? So if they did something and you're after them, that was the best position to be in. But if you shot your roll and they come after you, you've got no recourse. You know, there's nothing you can do. So it was very competitive. And here it's so pat on the backy, it feels to me like, oh, you did really good. Oh, but I think that's what built what we did. That's what made us look for things. Now, nowadays, I see the amount of moves are just phenomenal. They've built on it, but it happens in every sport. It happens in parkour. It happened in gymnastics. If you look at what was happening in gymnastics 20 years ago, they wouldn't have thought of what they do now. Same thing with the dancing. So it has to evolve, but it should still be competitive. I mean, it should still give you a thrill.
Do you think that things have changed much? Like you see that locking is predominantly now in Asia. I mean, there's probably more lockers in Seoul, Korea than there is in the whole of America.
I think that's because we went to Korea so much during the course of openness. We didn't go to, you know, during the 80s, there was glasnost with Russia and they started wearing Levi's, okay? Had we went over there to dance, maybe that would have been, it's just the fact that it sprung from here. And now the world can see videos from any time, any era, anywhere. So, but they were influenced by the originals. And I can remember turning down shows that went to Japan. Sometimes they would pay a lot. Sometimes they wanted the girls to be more than just dancers. They wanted them to be kind of geisha and talk to the gentlemen after the clubs. So I didn't really enjoy that part of it. So basically, I was pretty much.
Sorry, I got a phone call from Mr. Clean, who's just joined the stage. Kenny, Mr. Clean, at the same time as we lost Flame. Perfect timing. What's up, my brother?
How you doing?
Hey, yeah, doing fantastic. Hopefully Flame is back. Hey, Kenny, it's kind of hard to hear you. Could I ask you to come a little bit nearer towards the microphone? And I'm going to bring Flame back in, and you can, like, reconnect with Flame. Flame, Kenny, Mr. Clean, Kenny and Flame. So looks like Flame's just joining the show. Kenny, when did you meet Flame first? You guys are most... Hey, Flame, welcome back.
Well, Flame was early on. I used to, I grew up with the LA City Rockers. So can you hear me? Let me put my mic.
Yeah, it's just because you're so far from the microphone, bro.
Okay.
Hey, Flame, can you hear me, hon? All right, so Flame is just coming back into this.
Okay,
I'll
how's
cut
it
this
now?
out.
Should
All right.
on?
Hey, Flame, have you met Kenny, Mr. Clean, before?
I don't think so. And if I did, he was a
Oh, sorry, we lost Flame again.
Actually, I did meet Flame through the LA City Rockers. She would do industrials like Puma. I think Terry used to link up Puma, and so I would briefly met her with those encounters. But I look a lot different. You know, we're talking 30 years ago. It's I don't have hair anymore. I look different, and I was just starting to be in this. I didn't get in the scene till 1980. You know. And then that was my beginnings, and then I got put on afterwards. But I have met Flame, but I didn't see her on a regular basis. And she'd be at clubs like La Hot Club or the Ozone, places like that. So, but I mostly saw her when she was doing shows with the LA City Rockers. Back.
So I don't know if you just heard Flame
dance with the Rockers, and so I would see you doing industrials and shows like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just the volume's kind of low because you're away from...
Okay.
There you go. Get closer. Get closer. We're not going to bite.
I'm up on this
Okay.
lamp, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
But yeah, I remember Flame dancing with the LA City Rockers doing industrials with Puma. And that I would run into those exchanges, but maybe La Hot Club and the Ozone, places like that.
La Hot Club. God. They had the best video Miss Pac-Man in a glass table. I remember used to play that back in the day. Go to the club, play Miss Pac-Man. Sorry,
Flame was
go ahead.
A professional dancer. She was prolific. So I would sometimes see her at auditions. And it's funny because I heard the whole process today is different than it is now. But you would run into people who are actually going to those things, and you would see the same people over and over. And so when you hear people talk about these things, it's like there's a whole culture and language to it. But you would see the same people showing up, the starving artists, so to speak, that were hustling. So I would run into her in those type of encounters too. But she knew more of the LA City rock, like Jazzy and Renee and Terry and Anthony, more than I knew her.
Well, Kenny is still dancing. He's out there in LA, still repping hard and getting down with Anthony and everyone. And
super.
Coming up this month, we're heading out to Phoenix for All Funked Up event. Kenny invited me out, so we're going to go and lock up them circles.
Yeah.
When is that? You better send me the date.
We're in Phoenix the 11th, but the event is the 12th and 13th. And we'll be there to the 15th.
Of September?
Yeah. Are you close by?
I work. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I could go. I work. That's okay. That's okay. We'll have to catch another time.
My sponsor, Spoon Lab, they're actually sponsoring the event. So it is going to be an annual thing so we can prepare next time.
Perhaps you could video it too.
Yeah, we're gonna do a bunch of stuff. We're gonna do photo shoots, videos,
super
interviews. So it's gonna be a busy weekend for me.
Sounds good. Sounds really good. So you guys are still kicking it. That's great. I went to Gino Agogo's. I don't know if anybody knows him. He was a dance machine locker. He also did the circuit. I met him in 1979. He wasn't in Dance Machine as of yet, but he had done some video with, when I was like in my late teens, there was a television show called Hot City Disco, and he was on that, but he also worked the circuit in Los Angeles. He also had a dance partner named Goldilocks, Debbie McKay, and it was Gino Agogo.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Wow.
So basically they both went into Dance Machine and I went into Dance Machine alongside him. He just had a birthday and I went to his birthday party and I was kicking ass. And I have to say that my knee didn't work the next day for like a week. I couldn't bend it. I'm telling you, I don't even know what I did because I didn't do anything that I heard a crack or a pop, but keep yourself fluid, keep yourself taped up. I mean, now I kinesiology tape myself all the time when I do anything that I think I'm going to do something crazy. But he was a good locker, and he still is. He's still doing stuff, but he just turned 70. So let's give him a good round of applause to make it that far, and still performing. He still does a few things, not a lot, but he still does quite a few little guest appearances in some variety shows here in Vegas. So, and he still twirls cane. So, you know, it always goes with it. You lock, you twirl a cane.
Talking about those the people that my generation used to look at, me, Stewie, and people talk about this all the time. The guys I came up with, they popped and they both locked. But in terms of locking, the people that we used to look at were the lockers, the Valley guys like Body Magic, Chain Reaction, LA City Rockers. I used to look at those guys. Orange County had a scene because the lockers used to live down there. So those Copycats, the Go-Go Brothers.
Do you remember the puppets?
Yeah, but I didn't really look at them like that. Like Vegas had a scene too. You had like
right. They did. They did.
They were very. There's a difference between people that can lock and people that were prolific.
Right.
Which. And people, God, it's sometimes I get tired of hearing myself talk because I've done a lot of these things. But what I'll say about the people I used to look at, you look at a group like the Lockers, who we all adore, because they just set the whole thing off. And people talk about Tony Basil. I never used to really look at Tony Basil the way she locked, but I respect her because she was like one of the first females that I ever saw doing it. You know, Demita Jo wasn't as prolific as Tony Basil. And
Anna was kick-ass. Anna could lock.
Kick-ass, and she was early on. But Tony, I saw first, and people say, well, why do you think she was so essential? And I said, well, people like you and Boogie, Paula, Tom,
Paula,
girlfriend, you guys had choreo backgrounds and you could hit them 8 counts. And so Tony was connected to the entertainment business. She had access to people like Kenny Ortega, Jeff Kutash. So for her to have access, the Lockers needed that. The other thing you guys had, why you guys were essential to the culture, is because you guys were prolific dancers, where the street dancers, the Lockers and Chain Reaction and Body Magic, we didn't know about spacing. We didn't know about staging.
Transitions.
Being in and tight.
Yeah.
And up is an up. Everybody had to be, when you watch these type of people frame by frame, because the camera doesn't lie, are perfect. And so that's what people like you, like Anna Sanchez would know a little bit, you, Flame Boogie, Tony Basil, you knew about staging more than we did, and spacing, and those are things if you worked on stage or you worked on music, television, or film.
It elevated the dance, though. It did. It elevated the dance and made it more visually appealing. Because when the Foot Lockers went on Star Search, that's a perfect example. Because Steve Notario not only was a locker for years, I mean, he locked. He was also in Follies Bergère and the Tropicana show. He learned how to lift a woman. He wasn't really a dancer that way, but he learned how to do that from like Frederick Abkar or some other choreographer, you know, somebody that did these big girly shows. So when he came into it with Smokey Jr. and Rabbit and all the guys that would do the Foot Lockers, he had blocking and transitions, because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, even as precise as it is. It needs to be visually appealing, and that's where transitioning comes in, which is what a show does. It transitions.
And that's what I tell people, like why Tony Basil, it wasn't like she made up any moves, or, you know, Dawn made the mistake of saying she was a choreographer and Shabba.
No.
But she did know how to stage. She had a background of dance, and so her background elevated street dancing.
She's showing more of her dancing now than she ever did. When I was her assistant back in the 80s, she would not get up and dance. She was just the judge. she would come in there and she would just be a presence. She would be a choreographer, and she would be taking notes, and she'd say, thank you.
She's a much better walker now than she was back then.
Yeah. And the thing is that at that time, I can tell you how many movies she wanted to say that she was in. Absolutely none. She hated all the movies that she was in. To me, as a personal friend, she would say, Flame, I don't want to talk about fucking Beach Blanket Babylon or whatever the fuck the movie was. You know, it was like, I don't want to talk about choreographing Gidget. Okay. I don't want to be in the 60,000 ton woman, you know, where she was in all those movies. But now she's at a position where the same thing happened to me back, maybe I'm almost 70 myself. Okay. But about 10 years ago, I was like, I didn't want anybody to know that I did Electric Boogaloo. Look what color we wore. We wore orange and lime green. I didn't want anybody to see me wearing something so ridiculously with purple rose, purple high top rose. I'm like, what was I thinking?
So, yeah, if you're around.
You get over that, and you look at your long line of what you've done throughout your whole life, and you say, damn. So she's been putting stuff on from Guys and Dolls, from the seven little, you know, the seven Robin and the Seven Hoods. Yeah. She would never admit that she did those movies back in the 80s and 90s. She knew she did. She didn't have to talk about them. So she didn't dance as much. Well, but now she's dancing a lot more, but she can. The thing is that she went through phases too. So you didn't see her dancing that much back in the day. You know, unless you came to one of her classes and then she'd show you some stuff and you'd see Fluky Luke trying to do a fucking pirouette. And it'd be the funniest thing you ever saw, because he'd be like on tiptoes going, you know.
Going back to what you're saying, it's like in terms of like, and me and Sudi have a conversation. It's like people really don't care about what I done. They're more interested in what I can provide now. But we all, like, I'm 63. And so I'm kind of like an elder in this community now. And so they want to see what I'm bringing to the table now. But we all have that trajectory of things that I did this thing for Playboy.
You know what I'll always bring, although I can't dance to the extent I want to in my brain right now, I can't give that fierceness. There is no way that I'll ever lose that attitude. Yeah. And I was always one that was offset. People didn't want to come up to me. I looked like a really goofy kind of gal, but I was very off-putting back in the day. I really was. I was very off-putting. I had a husband for 30 some odd years. I didn't date any dancer. I didn't go out with any dancer. I was yeah. So the thing is that I was friends with a lot of guy dancers, but I was off-putting to girls. Girls just thought I was kind of strange. And my husband wasn't a dancer. He was never around. He never went to the clubs. So we're talking, I know what I bring to the table, and I still have that attitude, because if I had to prove myself, I would do it like I did at Gino's party. I don't even know how my knee went out, but it did. But I would do the same thing again. People don't have that I see anymore. I mean, Boogie's got it. She'd do it if she had to, you know, but it's that attitude of coming in. I have something to bring to the table. Bring your confidence, bring your drive, your killer instinct, put your own spin on everything you do and stand behind it. And that's what I bring, you know? So you bring, I mean, I don't need to bring moves. Show me a move and I'll bring that to it. You know, you give me one of your moves and I'll do that to it. Yeah. And I'll do it better than you. Thank you very much.
Fire.
Yeah, it's really about what you're doing now. Ice-T made this comment about something to piggyback on what you're saying is we all have that trajectory of entertainment prostitution. Sometimes you have to wear things that you don't want to wear, do things you have to do. You know, that's our generation was trying to be in music videos, movies, and tours. And so you can talk about checking those boxes, and it's a good thing. But the bottom line is if what I really respect about people is that they were prolific, that they were professional at it, and that they have that foundation so they can go on and have that confidence. But
you have to gather it yourself.
Preparation is what makes you feel confident. If you do the work, then you don't have to really prove yourself. The dance kind of proves it for you. You don't have to speak on it. You don't have to tell people your trajectory. I pride myself being able to still exchange with these young, brilliant dancers. But what I loved about, being in my time periods, that we did different things, that we could do.
Exactly. Don't stick.
And hip hop and
no, you could always excel at one thing. I mean, you're going to excel at one thing that you love. But you need to branch out and incur all these other styles just so that you can use them to your best advantage and know how to do them. Why do you think ballet and jazz dancers learned how to do waacking? And learned how to be more fluid in improv. I remember going to auditions and they tell a jazz dancer, okay, I'm going to put some music on and you dance. And they go, you're going to give me some moves, right? And no, they said, no, you're going to dance right now. You're going to dance. And they would say, okay, can you show me the choreography? They say, no, you're going to dance. We're going to put the music. And I said,
that's different now from what I'm understanding. From
exactly. But see, in them days, they said you put the music on, and if you can dance lyrically, you just dance. And basically, that's how we were raised. That's how we were honed.
Yeah,
with like brick by brick.
The first couple 8 counts, and I didn't have a trained dancer background, but the first couple 8 counts was freestyle. So when I would go to auditions, when I had to audition, if I didn't get the job in the first couple of 8 count, it was over for me. Because these professional dancers could just pick. I
remember going to one of the auditions for a big show in Las Vegas, and I walked up to the door at Debbie Reynolds' studio, and Rerun was there. And we both looked at each other because at that time, I think it was 1984. At that time, I didn't know a lot of jazz. I didn't really follow very good. I never took lessons. So learning from somebody in front of me and counting and stuff just came from doing, but not from learning. So me and Rerun said, if they ask us to dance, we're just going to sit there and say, can we do something for you first before they embarrass both of us? And I said, sure. So we both get up there, and they already recognize Rerun from being on television. Sure. So we go into there, and he goes, Flame, get up. And we did a handshake. And then we both, skeetered off, and we just did that. And we sat down, and they said, do you need us to do anything else? And they said, no, thank you. And off we went, and I got the job. Rerun didn't. But the thing is, I don't think they were looking for that at the time. They were looking for break dancers. And a couple of guys got that I didn't know at the time. But it was a break dance guy type show. It was called Breakdance Fever. I think Booyah Tribe was in it with me at one point. Donnell, I think he's called, what the fuck is he called now? I just saw Booyah Tribe for the first time in years, and he's called something else. Anyways, he was called
Charlie, Don, and Ted Rock. And
Donnell was Donnell, and Ted Rock was Ted Rock. But they were all up on stage, the whole family. I went backstage, hadn't seen them, and I mean they're all Samoan. This is a Booyah Tribe is a rap band, but at the time they started as poppers.
And they started as the Blue City Strippers in the Bay Area, and they moved to Carson.
Yeah, they were great. So I went to Donnell, and he looked like he was fucking The Rock. Okay, he had muscles and tattoos. His hair was all pulled up Samoan style. And I said, do you know me? And he goes, oh, honey, come here, let me hug you. And I go, no, do you know me? And he went, I go, it's Flame. And he went, oh my God. So he had changed so much. He had kids there, grandkids watching his show. And I remember he was like the kid when he was in Vegas. So yeah, it's fun to see that. But when you go to an audition, you got to show your best stuff. I don't know what they do now, but usually they get people off the internet. They do their audition pieces on the internet, right? They do, and they just get called, I guess.
I know. Just the whole thing's different. It's been a long time. Even when I was auditioning, it got to a point where it became like, it's funny because you hear a lot of these people talk, a lot of these old, bitter, old head dancers. And it's funny because just by having conversation with people that were auditions and that were prolific trying to work, there's a whole culture to the entertainment business that you can tell right away if people don't know what they're talking about, in terms of how you get your money and how, music television was shit pay and commercials was good pay and movies could be. And if you did a music video with a prior act, it was different than if you did a regular music video. And if you had the on tour and you got money sliding on the door, that there's a whole language that's per diem. So when people, it's really embarrassing for me to hear people talk about the entertainment business, because you in seconds you can clearly understand they don't know what they're talking about. I would have dancers saying, "Yeah, my mom used to manage us," and I was like, "Well, what? Why?" Like, unless you're on a sitcom before there was momagers and dadagers, that thing really didn't exist. And why would you need a manager unless you have a business and people are coming to you?
Right.
Like, I
Right.
was Anthony, because I was associated with Anthony, and Anthony was a top of the food chain choreographer. We were one of the first groups to get signed with Hollywood Boulevard, Joseph Hoffman and Reed. And I didn't even really need a agent, because it was like giving away money, because they didn't want to. It's different now. Like in the very beginning, the Funk Styles people, they didn't want us. They saw us as a threat, and it really didn't happen for street dancers like Terry and the people that work with Janet and the people that worked with Michael Jackson. Those people got jobs by name recognition. And
No, exactly.
And
exactly.
Wiggles was like, Terry was like Mr. Wiggles back then, who would hustle and find gigs. It was just different. So at some point we fired Julie McDonald, who was the biggest agent in the world, because they were working against us. They got involved with us so they could cancel us. But and I told Stu about it, when hip hop happened, it was all different. Hip hop became
I never knew any of this.
World, and then the door was open, but it was kind of our generation had to break through and hustle and get gigs. And so eventually we fired Julie, went to Bobby Balls. That didn't work out. And it just became like nepotism. Like people would put me on jobs that knew me professionally. And these old bitter people said, well, you guys had not Pete, never had representation. Bruno never had representation. You know, it was more by name recognition, you know, most of them.
Who you know.
So it's not what people think. And
no,
when they talk about it, I'm like, bloody hell, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's still who you know. It's still who you know. You know? And, you know?
Well, you hang out with those guys and they hooked you up, and that's like, well, yeah, of course I did. Why wouldn't I? That's the only way for me to get work. But don't get it twisted. If Flame couldn't do the job with the Rockers, she wasn't getting the job. Not because they like her, not because they don't have time to teach you.
Tell you, I'm going to go back.
You have to pick people.
That's going to elevate. That's going to elevate your show. Well, the thing is, here's the thing. To get into the Rockers, I mean, it was always my thing to do a girl locking group, an all girl locking group. I was sick and tired of Steve telling me that the Foot Lockers were just the epitome. And then I would say no, because now there is the LA City Rockers and they double time lock. And we would have these arguments because he's like my big brother. Okay. We've known each other for 44 years. And the thing is that there was no girl locking group. You couldn't get me, Anna, and Vicky together. It wouldn't happen. I keep trying, but then I get like Nene. She was in Electric Boogaloo. She's a Hispanic chick that's in the pictures that get posted of us. She was from New York, from Brooklyn, and she could lock, but she wasn't the locker that we were. But when she did Electric Boogaloo, she learned from Billy Goodson. So, you know, Billy was learning on the way too and teaching. So we could have had one at the time. And I wanted Steve Notario to put it.
There was only like you had Popsicle, Lollipop, you, Boogie, Flame. And so those were
they were so egotistical and we lived so far apart. You have to understand, Nene lived in the fucking San Bernardino Valley, okay? Boogie lived in Chatsworth. I lived in Hollywood. Anna lived in Orange County, Anaheim. There was no way you could go, let's all get together on Fridays and Thursdays and Tuesdays because we're all trying to starve to get some money to make some work. You know, so it was hard to get together if you didn't live by each other, especially in LA. That was one of the oversteps. You know, if you couldn't get us together at a studio more than twice a week, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to go on our merry way.
Crazy. Says it stayed that way. Look, I think Anthony formed a group. And he was like, before the Groove Loose, he had this thought to do this. And so for people to get together and practice and all of that and really become prolific, you had to have people in your proximity. You're 100% right.
Exactly.
And so Anthony was like, I'm going to put B-boys and poppers and lockers. And we're from the 805. We're from Orange County. They used to have to come up and pick up Anthony because he didn't have a car. So sometimes he didn't do certain things with Janet. And so there's reasons why you didn't see Rock and Rob in there or Anthony in there. We're
No,
just
I
trying to
totally
make
get
things
it. I
happen.
totally get it.
So when we're trying to put this together, it was really hard because of proximity. And I said, we had Joe that was 805 from Body Magic. And when I mean 805, it's Ventura County. I had my girlfriend who was her 7, who I taught how to lock in 7 months. And then there was me and Anthony, and we were all in the same proximity. So we just became a locking group. And then we managed to fit a gig, but we could practice at Joe's house. Joe was one of Panda's group, Body Magic. And so he was close by. So that was our group because we had tried other people. And I would be like, Anthony, these people can't stand some of these people as you want to do. They're not like, New York and rock steady crew. They can't stand next to us. And then they're not elevated in that. Crumbs, Remind, those guys started killing the game. I said, you're not out there like me. Because I was still going to, Stu would tell you, I was still active and on these functions. I said, these kids are at this level now, and to be able to lock next to us.
Well, let me go back to.
We just stuck with locking.
Yeah, let me go back to the Rockers industrial shows when we did Puma. Puma was one of the biggest.
Reebok?
No, we did Puma.
Okay.
I didn't do Reebok. They might have done Reebok, but the thing is, at the time, there was a big rush for clothing companies that made kind of like breaking clothes, because breakers would go out and get a group of windbreakers and baggy pants, and lockers would go out and get some parachute pants from the Army Navy surplus, and they would make it a look. But the thing is, there was a time when the corporations wanted to clothing us because they wanted people to buy that clothing.
You're talking about Tommy Boys. Yeah,
Adidas,
Cabarucci's, and all those things.
Right. So here we are doing the Puma tour for the first time, and they give us all these clothes to wear. And me and Boogie look at them and say, "Is there any girl clothes? Is there anything for girls?" There was nothing. It was all men's. There were fly zips in them. There was freaking wrong side shit. It was baggy. It was loose. It didn't look good on us. We started chopping it up. But the thing is, we had to deal with what the corporation gave us and tried to make it look good. Because when we do that one video on my Get Flame site on YouTube, I would never have worn those pants in a million years. They were so ugly. And
I remember seeing you guys because like the Flashdance movie, you would cut off the necks and tie the waist.
And you would put checkerboard gloves on and shit. We tried the best thing that we could do, but we had to wear the branding. We had to wear the Puma branding. We couldn't cut it off. We couldn't cut it off. We had to have it showing when we did the industrials. And to tell you the truth, they didn't make anything for women. And that's when you have to acquiesce to having the job, because we did the job. They couldn't do that particular job if they didn't have girls in the number. Sure. Puma said they wanted some girls. So of course they're trying to get the best girls they could. And thank God that I did it, because I love doing it. I always wanted to be in the Rockers. I don't know why they took so long to ask me. Anyways. But it was hard, and you have to deal with what they gave you. You couldn't do everything you wanted to do. So I'm just putting a little spin on that, because
no, I mean, you definitely had to maneuver the train of the gear.
Oh, you have to.
And make it
now,
look
I could remember cutting up too much and having to ask for some more branded clothing because we had taken the brand off, and we couldn't do that. So they're going, well, we just gave you some clothes. And we're like, they got lost in the plane flight. We need more. Our luggage got lost. Yeah, we fucked up a couple of times.
Yeah,
but I'm so happy that it's still something that people want to do. Locking especially is I have to talk about the feeling that locking gives you. There is no song on earth that you will not lock to if it's sang by James Brown. There is no doubt that if you hear a James Brown song, your feet and your arms start pacing and start doing Scoobies. And to tell you the truth, when I was in junior high school, before I even saw the Lockers on Saturday morning television, I was doing the James Brown footwork, okay? The good foot. There was a dance called the good foot in 1971, 72. And James Brown made it up. and he did it. But there's certain parts and decades of time that music drove the dance. Music made that dance what it is. And it was that music. It was James Brown. It was funk. The funkier, the better.
Well,
and then out comes, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Here's what I'll say. And just to clarify, yeah, James Brown, people, but at his era, before they were calling it funk, it was locking came from soul music. It wasn't called R&B. It was soul music. James Brown was like King coined the term of creator of funk. But originally, when I was a younger kid, it was soul music. They had rock. Disco started happening in the 70s, stuff like that. But you could tell that locking came from soul music because it had that groove.
Right. And the thing is, the horns drove those dun, 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 dun. Right.
The sonics of the song created poppin', and that was really funk driven.
Exactly. And that drove that dance.
By decade of which came first. You had the soul.
Exactly.
Poppin' was created of that in the early 70s. Then you had funk where poppin' was like boom, boom.
And then the offshoots of tutting at the same time as, popping. But yes, music drove it. So the decades of music is driving these styles of dance, just like they did with jazz when, in the 60s with Elvis and Anne Margaret.
It's always teenagers and the sonics of the songs that create dance.
No, I agree.
And so
I agree.
when I would talk to Stewie about, old head talking to younger people, I said, James Brown to me, in terms of locking, is the litmus test. And you look at contests today, you want to see people fall apart, put James Brown, and they can't find it. They don't.
No.
They don't know how to use that pace to keep time and how to lock your joints.
Yeah.
It will be. They start doing the Leo walk over and over, or playing guitar because they can't jump into those sonics. So in terms of locking, she's 100% right. James, you want to see a contest and people fall apart? Put on James Brown.
If you cannot improv to James Brown,
they're doing Campbell locking.
Yeah,
most of them aren't. They're trying. But
that's a trained thing. It's like if you're a jazz dancer and you're improvising.
Hey. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah has just joined the conversation. So, Sarah, this is Flame and Kenny Clean. Flame and Kenny, this is Sarah. She's my dance partner out here in Ohio Lockers. And I have to say that Sarah kind of reminds me of you a lot, Flame, in that she just got mad energy and and is multiple dance styles.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to bring her in to meet you guys and you to meet her. Hey, Sarah, can you hear us, buddy? Are you with us?
Yeah, I can.
Hey.
I can't see her. She's just hair.
Yeah. If she sits down, she may be lifted up so she can get in frame. There you go.
Can you lift up the camera? Hey, Sarah, say hi to Flame and Kenny.
Hello, Kenny
How you
and
doing?
Flame. Hello. Hi, good. Sorry, I'm outside with my family, so we actually just drive back, and so I'm kind of want to say hi with you guys because
Super.
Stu mentioned you guys many times with me. And he said that you have to meet with them. They are really, really good dancer, awesome dancer. I was like, yeah, sure. I think I really respect the dance experience that you.
Super.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
you betcha.
Sarah's originally from China, but based here in Columbus, and she's like a C-pop, so it's like Chinese pop dance, like K-pop, the Korean stuff, but they mix a little bit of everything. So there'll be crip walking, locking, popping, breaking, everything. And we're focusing on locking this summer. And the students, everyone's coming up. So we've got a locking movement that's bubbling here in Columbus.
It's great. That's fantastic.
But so let me catch her up. So what we were touching on was the way people are locking. And so when people talk to me about the way the lockers danced and the way the guys from the Valley danced, and even Orange County, Vegas, those were people that I was always interested because I thought they were very prolific. But the Valley guys had a lot of double time. And I feel that Phil has a big issue with the Valley style because he felt, they wrecked locking because they're taking a lot of the personality and character out of dance. And I was like, you know, I don't see it that way. I think
I don't either.
if people lock good, whether what style they do, I don't care. But I will agree. He feels that it wrecked locking because it was a battle culture. Like the Valley guys used to battle. And
can I weigh in just a little bit? Can I weigh in?
I don't want to forget my train of thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Said, I will agree with you that not because of the battle, because Flow's battled all over the world, camp lock style. So has Caboose. And that didn't hurt the culture, it helped it. But what I will say is the part where I think people struggle is when they try to do Valley style. They're not ambidextric. They fall off beat. They bleed moves. They have bad posture. If you do Valley, you have to be able to control it. You have to be able to double time and really be clean and tight. That's where people are getting it wrong. It's a very hard style to learn because they people are getting locked in that tempo and they can't control it. But if you look at Tom Guzman Sanchez or Bam Bam or the Rockers, that they can control it. They have so much foundation and they're ambidextrous, and they also did the toe locking. The cambo lock style, if they would go back to that original style, they locked more and they sustained more and they paced more. And so they gave themselves time to create. If you're doing double time, it's coming at you quick and they start to struggle. So that's where I differentiate with Flow in terms of what he feels is messing people up. Is just, it's very hard to control double time versus where there's more sustainment and the lockers give you more personality, more time to create. But I like both styles. And
I just want to weigh in on something because you're a 10-year gap from where I'm coming from, basically, more or less a 10-year gap.
10 years from the lockers.
No, but I'm just saying, just listen to me. Just listen to me. I lived with the originals and foot lockers were pretty much of the same school where you hit and froze, you had straight lines and all this. So when I went into the LA City Rockers and did double time locking and used to have discussions just like this with Steve, I saw both sides and I said, Steve, it has to evolve. It has to evolve, but it was too close to the time frame of the original locking style. It was too close. Now, Steve, he sends me videos of these kids doing phenomenal locking. And I go, they're triple time locking, okay? Or whatever. And I'm joking with him. But the thing is, we were too close to have it change so quickly. And it did, but it hasn't changed that much in that short of time. What the LA City Rockers did, not only did they double time lock, they did it clean, and they what is it called? They floor locked. And I'm not talking down to the knee handshake. I'm talking they sat on their ass and floor locked and then got up, and it didn't look bad. It looked very clean. That's never been done again. If you care to check it, it's never been incorporated or embellished upon. You know, you're still going to your knee. You're still going down on one knee. You're still doing a jump knee, jump turn. Nothing's been embellished as far as floor work in a long time for locking. So they were ahead of their time, is what I'm saying, Clean. I'm telling you because I'm agreeing with you 100%. But I sat there and fought with my best friend for years about how it was so enriching to do something even more locky. You know what I'm saying?
Like I said,
but you have to feel it. You can't just learn that. And locking is something that you show a jazz dance girl locking, and you can tell she's a jazz dancer. And Boogie can tell you from the get-go when her neck started doing, the neck thing. When your neck starts going with you, then you know you have it. I mean, she knew when she had it. It's just, you don't just get it with the moves and your arms are going forward and you're locking and you're pointing and you're hitting and your arms are perfectly up like a cheerleader. No, it's not all about it. Your hands can't be into a fist. It can't be into a finger. What the fuck? You know when you have it. And if you can repeat it with somebody standing next to you looking exactly like you, that's it. And if you're double time locking, you're just doing it twice as fast. And I think that's twice as good. Okay. So I always have.
It's like Terry said, we lost something in the transition, but we gained something. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
so,
but it evolved. But it evolved so quickly that the originals were still around doing their style, and they didn't want to see it move. They didn't.
no.
Now they're
No,
accepting because
that's
they're
where
not
you're wrong.
dancing.
Because when I talk to Fluky or Don or Greg, they love what we do. And
Oh,
so
okay.
when they started doing working with Tony Basil on Street Life, and we met Greg, and they were like,
Right.
like Greg would just, Greg so positive. I love.
I know. He
Greg
was
is
awesome.
probably the
He was.
best locking teacher ever in the world, and I stand on that. He really got people to learn how to lock. He said, "You guys got the moves. You guys are ambidextrous. You guys, we love what you do in terms of your routines and your combination. To me, in terms of routines and combination, and I can get in trouble, but in terms of the combination and the routine and the cleanliness, my favorite. But
Clever.
in terms of the soul and the personality and the groove and the character, and because when we lined up, we looked exact. It was great for television because the camera doesn't lie. But with the lockers, when we got with them, Greg was like, now you need personality, character.
Exactly.
You need to become a superhero and have your own identity. And we got that from lockers. So
you have to have your superpower.
Guys, when I was hanging, I in terms of the cleanliness and the double time, I got in the combination and the routines. I got that from them. But when we started getting around the lockers more, when you get to a certain level, then they start schooling you, say, okay, now you need to become an individual. Because if you look at the lockers, I can break down, like with Don, it was power and authority and a big air game. Greg was sustainment. Really hang on to it. Fluky, Luke, and Shabdu is where double time came from. And so then you look at Slim had these big shapes, he had these long. Fred had a bouncy thing. They were all they did routines, they were together. Tony had them staged and choreographed, you know. But in terms of individuals, they all locked differently. So that's what we got from
they weren't clean.
Routines,
they weren't clean together at all.
Xanadu and what's the name of the video when they do slow down the footage in the documentary? They were perfect.
In Xanadu, when you're talking chain reaction,
they did a documentary and they slowed down the footage, and you could see that they were perfect.
No,
and
they were clean. I was
That's
casted for Xanadu, and I just didn't get the call, and I was living in a van, so I couldn't do the call. I didn't get it, and then by the time I got to Kenny Ortega, he said, "Flame, we've already got everybody we need now. You missed rehearsal." And I said, "But I didn't get the call because we didn't have beepers. We had to call into a service to see if they called us, and I was living in a van, so I missed it. But I remember getting it with chain reaction. All of them got it. And you know for a fact that TC Diamond was originally in chain reaction because he was from Reseda.
Really?
Huh?
Toledo? TC?
Yes, Toledo. TC. Toledo Covington. He was originally in chain reaction long time before that. It was probably 1978. Wow. Okay. Then he went out on his own because I think him and Tom Sanchez, is it Tom?
Tom, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they got along because both of them did gymnastics. Both of them did side gainers. TC would do aerials. It was a very vibrant time then. And I met him. I watched Chain Reaction, but he wasn't in it at the time, but he was at the club one time with them and they used to have fun together. But he was from Reseda, you know, originally, or he lived there at a time. And basically he wasn't a locker either, see? And I think that was part of it because he wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to be his own man. He wanted to be Gene Kelly, you know?
It's
but that's
crazy
okay.
Because when you're talking about the Valley, also Fishbone, Angelo, he was around that whole time too. And
God.
So all those guys were just, it's such a talented place to be.
It was. And I would drive back and forth because I did live in Reseda with TC for a while. And then I would drive to Hollywood. And then I ended up moving to Santa Monica, just off of Hollywood, because I didn't want to go all the way to the beach. But yeah, you got to be closer to the clubs. That's just the way, because that's where I made my money.
Yeah.
Because that was
all
it.
That time, like to me, it was like 1980s when I got educated and I started meeting all these kids. The whole thing back then, it was just talent. But there was
so many talented people. There was a lady that she's probably gone to history. I mean, she for the last thing I knew, she was dating Crescendo, but her name was Adele. she could come into a club and whack to any song, and she would jump up on an emergency exit sign, and she would just be posing and shit. And I'd be like, oh God. And I just hit LA, and I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know what the hell that is, but it's good. But she just kind of went into being a person and working a regular job, and but there was so much talent back in the day. Some people pursued their talent and other people didn't.
So let me ask you this question in devil's advocate. Stu, you can call in. And I've shared this with people. A lot of times it's not even about me sharing my success stories. I like to share some of my downfalls and challenges and hurdles. And so I think a lot of we have a very PC culture where everything's just positive.
Oh, I thought it was politically correct.
That's there's a good side to it, but there's a bad side of it, because I feel where it might hurt locking, especially because popping is very strong right now. B-boying is ridiculous, but locking, it's being challenged. It's not going to be in freestyle session anymore. They got rid of it. Other events are knocking it off. Just a Boo and Anthony just judged Just a Boo and Bruce and having a conversation, and they're like, well, what is it? And I said, well, in my time, they weren't very nice. They would just tell you were trash. If you weren't cutting it, they would say, go home, bro, you look lame.
No, but we did that to everybody. No, I'm sorry, please. We did that to everybody. I would go up to a girl and say, you gotta go home. You just gotta go.
I'm speaking from experience, is that you had to have the gumption and be the tough, like, I don't, fuck you, I'm coming back. And the people that really wanted it got it. Yeah. So right now, if in terms of when I see, like, I'll go to a session and I'll lock with these young kids.
They're not hungry.
You can't say a negative thing, because then you become, and I don't want to be an old hater. I want to be somebody.
No, you don't want to feed into that.
Clap and applaud them. But it's like, Flame, if you're out there, you're not going to be impressed as some people that really had to earn it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there's never going to be a time like we lived through, obviously. There's never going to be that time. All I would say is that they just...
Well, it is in other art forms.
Yeah.
Copping, b-boying, house. Fuck it.
It's moving on. Everything has its time.
Locking has suffered more than the other art forms. And we talk about it all the time. And so there's people out there saying, well, what can we do about it? And so I used to teach at Debbie Reynolds. And so going back to something that you say, and I didn't want to teach. I just wanted to be the student, constant learner, but I think it made me a better teacher. But when I would teach the choreo heads, they could get the choreography, and it looked very drill team. You know what I mean? It didn't have that funk and soul and the type of thing that when you go to Ozone that had there, or you went to the Orange County or Vegas had there. They could learn the choreo, but they were interested in learning the 8 counts of locking, not the dance itself. So the people that really wanted to learn the art form, it was more of a situation where people would want to do private. So when I went to Stewie, he would go to Anthony's class and learn the routine. He could pick it up, but then he'd go to Groove Night. Now let's go. Let's take it further. Stewie wanted the smoke. What am I doing and what am I not doing? It was the question that people asked that get you there to the top of the food chain. And that, his generation, to me, is one of the flow masters, the Scrabble Lock, the Gemini.
But let me ask you this. Why aren't there groups? Why don't there have groups? All I've ever seen on these videos of all these competitions is single guys, single girls, single something, single, everybody's single. If they saw precision, 3 people with pattern, that would bring it back, because popping doesn't do that as much.
100%.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? They're just showing one person. I'm bored blocking by myself.
How old are you? I mean, and I know this is a rude question, but how old are you?
Who? He's asking you.
I shouldn't. I'm 63. So you're in your mid 60s?
No, he's 50 something.
Me? I'm 45.
See, he's young, but I think they're not showing group. Locking is something that has to show precision. It's like drill team, just like you said. It's like cheerleading. One cheerleader looks great 4 cheerleaders look fantastic. You cannot get the form or the patterns or the ups and downs and the texture unless you have more than one person. Even 2 people can give you texture.
So you look at some, and we won't say names because we don't want to put anybody down, but you look at these famous people who do duets and they're not clean and tight.
Well, that's just bad.
All over the world. So
that's just bad. I don't. Do you remember what was those 2 guys in the early 90s, late 90s? Healy, and the 2 Japanese dudes that locked.
Hilti and Bosch.
Let's not say names.
What I'm talking about.
You know, they went on World of Dance and they got cut off.
It doesn't matter. They weren't versatile enough. It doesn't matter. That shouldn't have stopped them. They're still a niche.
No.
And they were kick ass.
So they're famous dancers. They go on the show and everybody's upset. Well, they don't know locking. No, J-Lo and the judges, but they know dance. They know television. They know clean.
They know what looks good.
They know spacing. So it was fair to say that they didn't deserve to get pushed through because they didn't know their craft well enough. Chain Reaction went on there. Or Body Magic of the Rockers. They had flourished on them shows.
I think Kumari went on there with her Waacking, and they didn't get far either because you have to be so freaking versatile. Have to take ballet since you're 2 years old. You know, you have to have your body honed to a different perfection now for something to be.
Doesn't lie. So when you go on, you see a lot of these famous dancers, and they can't hit routines. It's because they don't know their craft enough. And this PC culture, they're gonna look. Flame, you can't say that. Don't be negative. I think we're missing.
Oh no! Nobody's going to tell me not to be negative. I'm a very positive person.
And so that's the downfall of.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Don't be frustrated though. You seem to take it personally, and personally, our era is never going to happen again. But it shaped us.
Maybe it will in China. Like that's the thing about I'm so impressed with Sarah's crew. Is of how organized they are, and in terms of like you were saying in spacing and the way that the choreographies are so very intricate. The C-pop stuff they're doing there, it's like even.
No, I'm not saying that's it. I'm talking about the fact that your life depended on whether or not you were good that night. Because if you weren't good that night, you didn't eat. Okay. When we won some big contests, I would get a hotel room and be able to take a shower. Thank you very much. I lived in a van. Okay. We were hungrier.
Going back to what
that just isn't happening now.
The discipline in Asia and Russia probably is different. And so there are.
I want to see it. No, our country is very complacent.
Remember that footage I showed you about this? Listen to this, Flame. Listen to what I'm telling you. There
was
this kid who was about 8 years old, and he was teaching a baby, a 4-year-old sister, technique. And he was just on her. You know, what was he showing up, all around back? And he wasn't satisfied. And by the end of this video, just because they had the disciplines effect, I can't get adults to do that in America. But they're fucking babies, and there's so much more. Work ethic is just stronger in Asia. And so I was very impressed by that. So
I agree.
I did it. It got so many views. And so it's there, but the people that are teaching and the people we didn't have classes for locking and popping back then. We had to go to the street and learn the authenticity of it. And now there's so much, you can go take a class and you could go to somebody's workshop and there's YouTube and all this stuff. It's almost like it's weakened the locking culture because there's access, but most of my students are overseas in Asia. I've told Stu this. The ones that get to a certain level that recognize, I don't have the range of motion like you. I don't do backflips anymore, but it's the dance that they're focused on. And so a lot of people in America are not interested in me. But over in Asia, I teach Kate Ding Ding, this girl named Double. There's this kid named Wristlock that came out here, and he had a great air game. Like Caboose used to say, we used to be flyers. We used to, be very aerial. And he could do all that stuff, but he locked very big. His paces were big, and I would lock slow, and I was more ambidextrous. And everybody was blowing up about this kid. The kid sat there and watched me all fucking day. He goes, where are you going tomorrow? Oh, we'll be at the barcade, or we'll be at this event. And so he's out here for like 3 months. Like, how do these kids stay out here? And he's following me around everywhere. And then he goes to back to Japan, and it took him about a year. And he said, he's winning all these competitions. And he says, you got any advice? And this kid's a champion. He's fucking killing the game, like KD. A lot of these people I work with are champions, but they want the smoke and they want to know more. What is it that I'm not doing that I need to do? And I said, great. Because I told Stewie, you have all these old heads that are forcing their education on people. If they don't ask, I don't teach. If you're not 100% with this, I don't want to have to. I hated teaching at W. Reynolds, but I had to sub for Anthony because he taught a locking and popping class all in one.
Well, you know, Sarah, if we can bring Sarah, you ready to come into the conversation? She had a series of really successful dance schools in the Bay Area. And Sarah, you used to bring over like locking teachers from China, right? Oh, I think she's. Can you hear us, Sarah?
We addressed that, yeah.
Couple times. So you guys are always frozen. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, I just really glad to meet you here, and I want to talk about the locker I met in China. So there's like a Chinese locker. His name is David. Yeah. I think he actually learned a lot of different locking style. He learned from Gogo Brother. He learned from some famous OG locker from LA. So basically, I think he is one of the best locker in Chinese in the new generation.
Do you know Dazzle, who learned from Don? And then there's a guy named Kenzo and Zora.
I think they're in Japan.
They're from Japan? Okay. So, like I said, Asia really has a strong work ethic, and they tend to want the smoke. They want the criticism. They want the discipline. And so those are the type of people I'm trying to engage with, So I'm very happy with Asia locking. And, you got these savants who say, well, it's music first. And, like, I was hanging out with guys that just could pick everything up. Jazzy could learn things. Bam, Terry. They were all very, very solid. But I was a slow learner. So I would have to learn the technique first, and then I would learn the musicality. And then I would learn. But it was the move first for me, because I couldn't just, like, when you're learning a piece, you're learning the technique, you're learning the choreo, then you're losing the musicality. You got all this stuff coming at you. And unless you're really prolific, it's very hard to do. So I would focus on just foundation and the mechanics of it first. And then I would bring in all the flavor and personality, because I wasn't like Bruno, a savant at popping, or Anthony, a savant at locking. It was different from me. And so Asia seems to have that. I want to learn the move, then I'll bring in the flavor and the character. It's really interesting to see they have such a strong work ethic. And they're locking, they're winning. They're coming over here, taking the bag and leave. That's what I see.
Sarah's organization in Columbus is called ACES, is Asian American Culture and Education Society. And predominantly most of the students that she has are from China. And yeah, I have to say, like, they're all professionals and family, but their work ethic is unlike anyone else's. And you guys have got some massive TV shows that are dancing in China right now as well. Isn't that right, Sarah?
Yeah, exactly. I think the Chinese government basically encourage this dancing as a good, healthy, I would say a healthy workout / sports for, or entertainment for people to do. So I think there's a lot of young kids who are learning street dance right now. They learn locking, popping, hip hop, all kind of pop, street dance. So yeah, that's why I feel there's like way more new generation just grown up fast.
Sarah, so for me and the people that tune in and listen, and this is just a question, there's maybe no right or wrong answer, but I am curious, why do you think Asia, particularly China, like I've taught this kid named Alan One, he met Jazzy, he flies out here, stays here and trains with me. What is it about China right now? They're on fire and they're willing to travel. Like, there's kids out here that won't come up here from Orange County to train with Richie Rich. Richie Rich taught a class and there was one student, and she's Chinese. And like, what is it about China their work ethic that we don't have here, that they're willing to travel and spend money to learn these art forms? Is it because they love culture, or is it because, why are they more disciplined than maybe America locking? Do
I think
you
this
have a handle on that?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I basically learned hip hop from, when I was in Beijing. So basically, there was like a private school, and then they hire different teacher from American, from Korea
Yes.
and Japanese. They teach, kids hip hop there. So basically, when I was learning hip hop, I feel I really interested of learning the culture behind it. Like, this move is called Monastery, and how it comes from, and this move called, that Bart Simpson. I'm actually one of my interest to learn hip hop is I want to learn what's this step called, and what it's come from. You know, I combine this thing together, make me feel the hip hop dance is really close to your life. Like you can imagine, the people who create all this dance steps, how this thing become one of the steps. So it's actually make this dance more interesting. It's not like only like a dance. It's combined the culture and how this come to me. And so I feel a lot of people in Chinese people, this is also like a education background here. When we graduate in China, when we learn things really deep, because when Chinese people learn something technically, we are really focused on foundation. A lot of people have a mindset is foundation is super important. So that's why when we learn this thing, we're not just learn it. We have to know what's behind it, what's the roots of this, what's the foundation is. So culture is one of the things Chinese people really pay attention. We want to know what's the cultural foundation in it, and we can get a mindset and we can understand this thing better. So I feel more and more dancers, they come to US, they know the original thing, the roots of the dance is from here. After I think especially when they get more advantage, they are desire to learn some origin foundation from original person. This is actually a lot of Chinese people, the way Chinese people think. Like me, I always want to know what's the original thing behind this, because
so let me cut. So I guess I'm assessing right that they're very much into culture, and I have to refer to Stewie now. It was the same thing in Europe and France, where they were coming over the pond, learning from the originals. Not just, it's like America, we're almost spoiled because all these art forms are invented here. We have like I just had to drive down to the valley to start to learn how to lock and pop, but with broken down cars, and I really wanted it, so I went where it was at. Where Stewie and all the French and all the people from London, Jimmy Williams, and they had to come over here. And not only did they train with us, they wanted to, am I right, Stewie? They wanted to know the history and the culture. So Asia and Europe were very much about the culture. They celebrate the culture, where Americans seem to take it, not Mine and Flames generation, but these younger kids, like Maris from Paris was saying, everybody knows the Lockers. Everybody knows Fluky Loop. Everybody, where these kids, they don't really know the way that the history that the Asian and China people do, and the French and the English used to know. Like Gemini was the first one, and Funky J that really started coming out here, and then Follow So Fluid and Scrabble Lock. So they were coming out in groves and coming to the events and battling. They were kind of green, but they were like, okay, let's study with us. How do I get in touch with Penguin? How do I get in touch with Don?
Well, I was looking at like the Nicholas Brothers, a documentary about tap dance and all of the massive movement of MGM and jazz and whatnot. And do you know that for the second half of the Nicholas Brothers' life, they were living in Paris, France? That it would seem that from over 100 years ago, America's been producing so much music and dance culture, but America is not that one that's really much into consuming it. That is everyone else, and that it would seem that the rest of the world very much wants to sort of preserve and continue these American cultures, where here it's very much more like, oh, what's next? Yeah, we had that. What's next?
It's a
fact. All my
fact.
students are from Europe and Asia, and they don't want to just know the dance. They want to know the history and the culture. Flame, have you had that experience?
No, that's great though. That is great. It's been happening for years. Look at
Decades.
Josephine Baker was a performer from the United States, and she made her name there because she wasn't acceptable here. You know, we're talking about the 60s. We just got out of the 60s in the Vietnam War, and you've got Black guys sitting on television teaching your little white children how to lock. Okay. It's just a fad. That's the way we looked at it. They didn't think it was going to become a cultural thing. I mean, at the time, it was just accepted. But to me, looking at it from a completely different perspective, the powers that be, how they got on television was just phenomenal, because that in itself was quite hard for the time frame that they were on TV. Do you know what I'm saying? But then they weren't. Why didn't it go on to be more stuff? You know? So America they just want the next thing. And then they use the powers that be to kind of shade it the way they want it to be shaded. Right now, we're in a very dark shaded area. And I'm not talking about race color. I'm just talking about we're in a very dark era for Americans. And everybody wants to just branch out, you know?
To further test what you're saying, Flame,
yeah.
Look at somebody like Bruce, who runs one of the biggest events. It's called Just a Vu. It's big like they are in Asia.
Uh-huh.
He has schools for street dancing, modeling agencies. So he took the American culture and built business. Like Bruce is a millionaire off of street dancing.
Maybe we should all move overseas.
Like, well, when Pop and Pete and Skeeter Rabbit, people thought they were in a movie and they were making money. No, they were living with their parents. And so to monetize the dance, they had to go to Japan.
Of course. I just think that's the way the American culture is. We're throwaway culture. We throw everything away, including our own culture. We're a throwaway culture. And nobody remembers that my grandparents were immigrants just 2 generations ago. I'm not American. My heritage is Yugoslavian. Okay.
Oh.
But oh my goodness, I'm white. So yay, I guess.
My dance partner, she used to take Anthony Bam Bam's class. She didn't speak a lot of English. And there's the story with her is I didn't want to teach her. And she wouldn't take no for an answer. And she just kept on, stalking me on all my social media. Her name's Roxana. She's Romanian. So she has like Eastern European train, like the Japanese, like the Europeans used to. When Gemini was running France, Waacking was flourishing. And then when he went and moved away, that as well. It took a little downfall, but they're still very competitive in French. But I like when Gemini was helming that situation.
Gemini was a wonderful guy. I met him too. I think he was wonderful.
Hungry.
I just don't know why the American people as a whole, you know what? I do know why. I mean, I'm going to throw my own 2 cents in there. Okay. We are such a large country. I know China is a very large country, and you have different regions, and you have different peoples from different places. But I have relatives that live in Texas. They never leave Texas. They think Texas is America, okay? It's only one of 50 states. But the thinking of those people are just about every other state, too. It's very difficult to get a consensus of what one full American experience is, because there's so many different American experiences. So if they want to throw away a culture, we've already thrown away the indigenous First Peoples culture, okay? Let's talk about the First People. The Indian culture is coming back. I mean, here in Vegas, we have all kinds of powwows. I know they don't call them powwows. They call them something else, but they do the dancing and they do shows, and it's all about the American Indian, But what happened to it for the last 100 years? Nobody wanted to see that before. So it's just the nature of American people. It's not even Canadians don't do it. Why do we do it?
Do you guys think that we're spoiled in America?
I don't know.
Don't let me say, because Canada is like gnarly.
Canada's on it. So I love Canada.
Mexico is really coming up. But
there's more locals in Canada than there is in America.
Yeah, I love Canada. I don't know what's wrong with us as a culture, not as a people. We're proud. We're proud Americans. But there's so many different versions of the American experience that it's hard. I mean, you get your New Yorkers and you get your LA people, but if you're from Kansas, you don't want anything to do with an LA person or a person from New York. But we're all
Me and
Americans.
Sarah, we represent Ohio, the Buckeye, the heartland of America, and everyone's welcome out here.
Yeah, never been to Ohio in my
But
life.
no, Flame, to assess what she's saying, yeah, there's people that hate California. There's people that hate liberal. We're all gay. We're all
What is the
people, we're all
deal?
devil worshippers.
Yeah, what is the
that
deal?
these red states talk about New York, California, and Florida is that we're
Other
all
countries
evil. And we're
don't
all
do
going
that
to
with
hell
their
in a handbag.
people.
Huh?
I was going to say, Sarah, Chinese people don't hate other Chinese people.
Do they?
Do you hate people from Singapore?
Cantonese and
Or rather from Shanghai?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong? Well, Hong Kong was absorbed. But, okay, say from Mongolia. That's China. Do you hate
That's where
them?
you're from,
No.
right? Sarah, you're from Inner Mongolia?
Yeah, I come from Inner Mongolia.
See, I don't understand. You probably think everybody is got something to offer China, to make China what it is. We just don't think that way. And it's sad. And I don't want to make this political, so I'm going to stop because this is turning very, very icky. Because I love America.
But
and I
it's
think
a conversation that should be had.
Please, Sarah.
it's just sad. It's sad. I'm sad. I don't like being sad.
Guys,
we're gonna
maybe I
address-
need to leave in.
Go ahead.
Maybe I need to leave in 5 minutes because I actually have a family dinner, so I don't want they wait for me too long. But so I want to
It's been a
say,
pleasure.
from this side, what I see is, so I'm a new immigration here, right? My husband actually a white guy. So I'm traditional Chinese guy, have master degree here and work and live here. So basically, from my side is like, I think the way people grown up is super different. Like Chinese people, more educated by one mode because we are controlling one party, and American allow people think very freedom way, so people allowed to have different mindsets, and you never can control people in under one mode. So, and also about this dancing today, so let's talk about the dancing. I want to say it's all about benefit, a profit. To be truth, I feel in China now a lot of things, benefit things relate to dance, like a TV show. There's like a lot of popular TV show. They make like all the past famous people like actress, dancers, singers back on the stage, and they recruit a new band, like a temporary band, and they need to do some competition together, like group 1, group 5, so 5 groups, and each group have like 3 to 5 person, like either girls or ladies. They were super famous in back 10-20 days, and now they have to back in a girl band and like singing and dancing together to compete each other, so actually everybody need to dance, and that's why. And also the government now really support dance. Like I said, the government would rather let people, Chinese people, enjoy dance, enjoy this entertainment, so they pay more attention to dance, so they don't pay attention to the politics. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People need something to get their attention, so they don't think about other things. So basically,
Exactly.
now the entertain thing in China is very, very popular, and they grow up very fast because the government encourage this kind of thing, the business, and also a lot of young people, they saw all the celebrity make so many, the influencer, they make so much money. I want to be like them. I want to be, especially, young people. They care about how they look like, how they dress like, they think and also K-pop. You guys know K-pop, how popular, right? There's a movie called K-pop Demon Hunter. I don't know if you guys watch it.
Mhm.
My kids, 5 years, I have 3 kids, 3, 5, and 7. They can sing every song in this movie. You know, K-pop, behind the K-pop, what's the K-pop? K-pop is Korean pop music, right? But how
Yes.
they spread all over America so fast. They using dancing good songs, catchy songs, and they using dance moves. And what's the thing behind this dance move? They hire like really famous American, you know, dance choreography to teach them the dance, and they, you know, cover
Right.
it with a really young, cute face lady, and you know, dance, and then make them super popular, and you know, they spread in American. They are, you know, affect all the young kids. So this is what I think is everything actually why popular dance is so popular in China, in Asia, in Korea, in Japan, because there's related to the benefit. They really how profit they can made by dancer. But in China, in American, I have my own dance studio called Enjoy Dance Studio in North California, in Bay
Right.
Area. You know, we hire a lot of local dancers. We want to support each other. Even during the COVID, we still open the online stream class to support the dancers who, you know, can't even live, and with donation the money to the local dancer. There are so many good local dancers. They can't even live their good life here, you know, because for me, I to be honest, if I become like a full-time dancer, I can't support my own.
Yeah.
I have my family here, you know what I mean.
No,
But in China, if you are full-time dancer, your own studio, you make bunch of money, you know what I mean. So because I feel here in America, government won't see dance
yeah.
as a very
Yeah.
main entertainment or a main sports. You know, American crazy about sports, you know, every kind of sports,
Yeah.
you know, all the good top sports player can win a lot of, you know, prize, you know, they are famous, they get the advertisement. But did you ever see any, you know, famous dancer, you know, making money like this? No, because
No.
I feel the government didn't stand behind them. So this is the thing. But why Chinese people send Chinese government? Because this entertainment can move people's attention from politics or chaos or some really bad thing into this one, and what people really like to do it. But I feel here the government won't support this thing. But some reason maybe this is inappropriate to talk here, you know, because culture thing. Back to the culture. Our Asian people
In history.
don't mind
Yeah.
whose history, whose culture it was, because we love this dance. We want to know the culture. We want to learn the culture. We respect this culture and this history. But this is American. You know, this
Have
is
you guys
something
seen?
this
Have
is
you
a
guys
racist. I
seen
don't want to
Cholo
say.
culture in Asia with the lowrider?
I'm
So
gonna have to
when I'm
close
talking
up
about history and
too,
culture,
Flexy.
they don't have gangs, but they have lowrider bikes, tattoos that emulate the Pendletons. They're doing that all over Asia because they love culture and they embrace it. And so they
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I can't even believe it. And
God
it's
bless you.
American culture. They love us more than we love ourselves. It's a trip to me. So
It's
I'm
gonna,
No, this is the
you
thing.
guys,
So sometimes,
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go too. Okay.
Terrific
So
conversation, you guys. Yeah, let's wrap it up. But like, thank you, Flame, Clean, Sarah. Like, this has been terrific, and yeah, I mean, it's beautiful seeing you all today. Thank you for joining us, and thank
thank
you anyone
you.
who's watching this afterwards. And yeah, like we're all in this together. It's all about the love of the dance. So yes, see you, Flame, Sarah, Clean. You have a beautiful rest of your day. Like, one luck. Bye bye.
thank you.
bye bye. Thanks for
Bye.
clearing it up,
See you.
Sarah. I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. I was really curious about it's the